Imagine a world. The year is 2200. Humanity has expanded across our solar system. The government no longer exists because every military in the world now belongs to megacorporations. That same world allows you to clone and license people's consciousness in order to use them for military purposes. Well, you don't have to imagine, because Quasimorph is exactly that. It's a turn-based extraction shooter that's loosely based on crack pipe and LSD-induced psychosis. It's actually a lot of fun. You'll be playing as a mercenary, or rather a clone purchased and licensed from a mind chip, because everything in this galaxy is protected by intellectual property laws. We, however, are an illegal private military company, doing dirty work for the largest megacorporations. In return, they turn a blind eye and let us continue our operation. You see, in the world of Quasimorph, there are no laws. Everything is loosely held together by a few very basic agreements between the major factions. Tensions are as high as ever, and the entire solar system is filled with PMCs just like you, looking to profit from the unrest. There is also a looming threat of aliens, invading us from a different reality. These are called Quasimorphs. They are very technologically advanced, very strong, and are looking to enslave the entire humanity. They also have their own in-game faction, under the name of Tet's Clan. Fortunately for you, they don't seem to dislike you, so working against the better interests of humanity is also an option. Then there is the Hexarchy, the three major corporations responsible for the destruction of the government and the current state of the world. These are Ancom, SBN, and Realware. A long time ago, the Hexarchy went to war with every government on Earth, bombed the United Nations headquarters, and bought out the entirety of the United States military. Apart from the Hexarchy, there are also other factions that operate in the solar system. A few of the notable ones are Civil Resistance. These are communist terrorists who want the return of the state. They are not very rich. It turns out that pre-planning your whole economy for the next decade is not a very efficient economic strategy. Church of Revelation is a religious faction, whose goal is to satisfy any individual who seeks revelation. From what I understand, they do that by giving you a copious amount of alcohol and tobacco products, seeing as that is the only reward you'll get for completing their missions. The rest of the factions also have different things that make them unique, but that depends on the flavor of war crimes you want to commit. When you want to begin a mission, simply select which planet or moon you want to go to, then click on the contract, select your character, their class, and the gear you'll want to be using. I won't go into detail on every class and character, but my favorite one used to be the Tunnel Rats. It was insanely broken, shotguns did way too much damage, and your inventory was constantly overflowing with loot. Moving on to missions, your goals vary from contract to contract. Some contracts require you to steal an item, kill a high-ranking official, destroy cargo, or even slaughter half of the station's crew. Once you're deployed on a mission, the only way out is either success or death. So let me teach you the basic mechanics of Quasimorph so you at least have a fighting chance. This right here allows you to choose from three different movement options. You can either sneak, which allows you to hear enemies through the walls. You only get one action point, but it lets you interact with the environment, your inventory, and containers at no cost. You can also walk, which gives you 2 action points and no major downsides. And finally, there is sprinting. You get 3 action points, but you cannot interact with anything, and your accuracy is severely decreased. The main purpose of sprint is to check corners. Otherwise, you'll be introduced to the pain mechanic very quickly. You can check how bad your pain is next to the health bar. After your body takes enough damage, you'll go into shock and get stun locked. But don't forget that this mechanic applies to everyone, including the enemy units. Next to the movement option, you might have noticed another counter. It measures the amount of quasimorphosis. In other words, is the likelihood of an alien bursting out of a dead body. There are 7 stages of quasimorphosis. The more time you spend deployed on a mission and the more bodies you pile up, the quicker it will increase. At 1000 quasimorphosis, a Baron will spawn. What is a Baron and what are its origins? I have no idea. All I know is that Barons are Quasimorph's endgame content. Barons can one-shot you, and they're pretty tough to kill, with anything except for shotguns. Even the shotguns you acquire at the start of the game can evaporate most Barons in a single turn. But if you get overwhelmed by the amount of Quasimorphs intruding into reality, there are a few ways to postpone the intrusions. You can shoot up morphine, smoke multiple packs of cigarettes in a row, or drink yourself to near blackout. Just keep in mind that there is never a permanent solution, and you're always fighting against time. After you complete a mission, you get rewarded with items ranging from utterly shit to somewhat useful. These rewards not only depend on your reputation of the faction, but also how much they have scientifically advanced. All All factions have a power stat and a science stat. This also translates into gameplay. The more powerful and advanced the faction is, the tougher enemy units you'll face in your missions. That's why you never fuck with the factions you do work for, because you're going to be facing elite guards with gear that rivals your own. That's why we have to talk about weapons. Different weapons and ammo do different damage types. If you don't want to suck at Quasimorph, you're gonna have to learn to use that information wisely. I say this because once I accepted the highest difficulty contract against one of the more powerful enemy factions. I used the best armor and weapons I had at the time and got split in half by a fucking laser beam. So that's why you have to learn what kind of weapons and ammo enemies are least resistant to. Turns out the elite troops that annihilated me before are incredibly weak to cut damage, so usually 1 or 2 shotgun blasts are enough to take them down. Other elite units in the game are weak to piercing damage, so bursting them down with an assault rifle takes care of the problem. Humans in general are weak to pierce damage, while robots and turrets are weak to cut damage. Quasimorph is about learning the weaknesses of your enemy and exploiting that knowledge to the best of your ability. In terms of armor, you only really have one choice: Realware. They make the best armor in the game. Both their lower tier Carnage pattern and their higher tier Warlord pattern look cool as fuck, and their stats are insanely high. Other factions also have decent armor, but most of the time it's going to be more situational. Quasimorph also has a simulated economy. Simulated being in heavy quotations because I genuinely have no idea what factors cause certain items to skyrocket in value while others become worth absolutely nothing. On my old save, hydraulic pumps were the most valuable item in the entire solar system, while bars of pure gold were worth, well, about as much as a used meth needle. Changing topics, a lot of new players get the advice to stay on Mars and its satellites due to Quasimorphosis not being present there. That is terrible advice. If you, during the tutorial, manage to loot at least a 7mm rifle, you just won the entire game. Because when you start out, a rifle shreds through most enemies in 1 or 2 bullets, and early contracts, a lot of the time, won't require you to go too far into enemy territory, meaning you won't be deployed for too long, and in turn, there won't be enough time for Quasimorphosis to really take effect. So even missions on the hardest of locations, like the moon, are still pretty easy. Watching a game like this grow with each update is very entertaining, because I got to witness some of the growing pains of a developing game. When the 0.7 update dropped, it destroyed weapon durability. A rifle almost 200 years in the future, for some reason, has about as much structural integrity as a Chinese apartment building. That is to say, they're not very durable. Playing the new patch day 1 was an incredibly tedious experience. The update removed free weapon repairs given at your ship, which meant that until you unlocked the recipe for the weapon repair kit, you pretty much had to change guns every single mission. Another funny thing I noticed is that some factions just stop progressing after a certain point. Around 30 hours into my save, I drop into a mission against civil resistance. Everything is going well until I realize that something's not right. I inspect one of the dead bodies and discover that all he had was a goddamn nail gun. In conclusion, despite the aforementioned growing pains, Quasimorph is still a great game. It's 20 euros on Steam, so go buy it. More content on the horizon, so stay tuned, and thank you for watching.